I feel like I'm losing weight. I know that I'm losing weight. I had to put 2 new notches in my belt, so that's something. Hopefully, I won't be fat for the summertime. Also, real quick, as I begin this video, I want to say this as well. Hey, bear with me on this. I literally just went and got my first COVID shot today. Got the Pfizer shot. I got to go back in like 2 weeks and get the second shot. I don't feel bad, but I do, I've heard that people have had side effects. That kind of plays on your mind when you get the shot. And then after that, I went and got my hair cut, and the woman cutting my hair, she sounded like she had a bit of a cold. And the last time that somebody was sick, cut my hair, I got sick. So anyways, I'm probably making a big deal out of nothing. Let me go ahead and get into this video. Hey, what's going on? I want to share with you guys another prison-related video that's brought to us by the comment section and comments that you guys are leaving down below. Now, this is a twofer right here. This video is actually inspired and dedicated to 2 different people who left 2 totally different comments, but they both bring us to where we are today with this video that I want to share with you guys. The first comment is from a person by the name of Dennis Russ, who says, "Nice video, Joe. I want to know the top 10 saddest things you've seen while locked up. I wonder what it's like having to process emotions in an environment where you can't be seen as weak." Dennis, awesome comment that you leave right there, except I'm not going to do the top 10 today. Bear with me, hear me out. I'm going to do one particular super sad thing, and I hope you'll rock with this. I think that you will. What I'm getting ready to share with you is what I consider probably one of my best prison stories ever. But before we get to that, let me go back to your comment, Dennis, and a really interesting thing that you mentioned. You say you want to know how prisoners handle emotions or process emotions when they can't appear to be weak. Well, don't think for a second that prisoners are not going to be crying in prison. After lockdown, you will hear it. Dude's crying. You might not know who it is, what cell it's coming from. It might sound like it's coming from next door. It might sound like it's coming from down the hall. You're going to hear dudes crying. Some dudes might pull the blanket up over their heads. They're super sick. And I'm not talking about no COVID or no flu season neither. I'm talking about they just got some bad news on the phone. They got that blanket pulled up over their head, and they crying up under that blanket. And one thing that you ain't gonna do is you ain't gonna go making fun of a dude who's crying up in prison. It's like messing with a stray dog. You back a dog up into a corner far enough, he might be tempted to bite your ass. And mess with a prisoner who's going through it if you want to. Oh, ha ha ha, look at dude over there, he crying. That dude might kill you. He might not got nothing to lose. But also, this is why I like your comments so much, Dennis, because you want to know how prisoners process emotions. It's happened to me, and I feel like it's probably happened to a lot of people. And if you can relate, well, you can relate. You don't gotta say that you can. But in prison, you can go through so much shit in life. It doesn't just have to be in prison. It could just be life in general. Maybe it's school or the military or your job, whatever it may be. You go through so many things where you can't really process what you're going through. You learn to become, or you do become, emotionally disconnected from everything. You become like numb to everything. And sadly enough, I feel like that's a form of PTSD and something that can come from, a multitude of other things, not just prison, mainly the military and serving time in what the hell is that? Is that a lighthouse? Being overseas at war or something like that. People can become disconnected. So I guess the short of what I'm trying to say, Dennis, is, how do prisoners process emotions? Well, sometimes they cry about it. Sometimes they fight or buck about it, or maybe even worse. And other times, maybe even oftentimes, they just cut it all off. They cut off the emotion. And I did that. And I find it very difficult, even now, 6 years separated from prison, I still find it difficult to be emotionally attached or connected to anything. Pretty crazy. So, to get back on track, sad thing. The saddest thing. And that's really interesting given everything that I've just mentioned, that whole emotional disconnect. Today I'm going to share with you the saddest thing, one of the saddest things that I experienced while I was locked up. And let's go ahead and move on to the second comment. Like I said, it was 2 comments that brought us to where we are here today. And this one comes from Carl Jensen, who said in all caps, "Never forget about home bird broke wing. Legends never die." There are 72 likes on that comment. A lot of you guys remember the story of broke wing. We're going to retell that here today because that is by far one of the saddest damn things that I ever experienced while locked up. And we're talking about a freaking seagull, a prison gull, a prison bird. In the wintertime, it's seagulls. In the summertime, it's ducks. I just said in a previous video, I couldn't remember which one it is. That's how it is. Winter seagulls, summer ducks. Not only are we going to relive this story and reshare this story, I'm going to share with you guys the blog post that I wrote from Joe Writes His Wrongs. It might be in a book at some point. I'm sort of putting together a little comic book, so that may be coming sometime. But if you have no idea what I'm talking about, well, today, folks, you're about to hear what I consider, again, one of my best prison stories ever. And with all of that, let's go ahead and dive. Starting to feel a little hot in here, and I know that's probably just my mind playing tricks on me. Head first up into this video. I can't remember if it was at every prison that I was at where birds were such a big deal. But I remember that at the last prison I was at, Indian Creek, they most certainly were. And again, in the wintertime it was seagulls, and in the summertime it was ducks. Now, nobody really liked these birds, the ducks or the seagulls. The seagulls especially had a lot more hatred toward them because of the fact that when you came out of the chow hall, these things would dive bomb you. And if you were coming out with any food, they were going to be taking that food. Some dudes would come out of the chow hall and maybe toss a piece of bread in the direction of somebody they don't like in an effort to get those seagulls to bombard that person, or maybe toward a guard. You know, you could get in trouble. You could catch a charge for feeding the birds. And real quick, before I forget this point, another charge that you could catch involving the ducks, which were less hated than the seagulls for whatever reason. I guess they weren't as much of a nuisance, even though they pooped everywhere. You know, there were dudes who would actually go out and find these duck nests and take the duck eggs. And they would literally cook these eggs. It was crazy. There was a dude I was locked up with who killed a duck. Killed a duck and tried to cook it in the microwave. Got told on. Crazy story. He actually follows After Prison Show. Tyler, very special shout out to you. But you were batshit crazy for what you did there. If you guys want to hear that story, leave a like on this video and I'll be sure to share that with you sometime soon. Crazy what happened with that. But anyways, the seagulls were a pain in the ass. And you know, you might be trying to smuggle some food out of the chow hall and the seagulls would straight up tell on you. They knew you had some bread. You had one of them hockey puck type of biscuits or rolls stuffed in your back pocket, and the seagulls was snatching at your junes, trying to get that bread up off of you. The guards didn't even have to search you all the time coming out of the chow hall. The seagulls would search you instead. And they knew if you had that bread. I even did a couple of cartoons and this painting right here, which was actually, I think this was my first mural painting. The prison gulls. Basically showcasing these seagulls shaking a dude down coming out of the chow hall. I mean, that's how real this was. There's two other cartoons that accompany this, but I'll save those until we move a little further with this story. Like I said, the seagulls were definitely a hated bird. But even with that being mentioned, it doesn't make what happened right at all. And in fact, when I heard about this, I didn't like this at all. I'm an animal lover, and I hate to hear about any cruelty toward any type of an animal, even a seagull. But one day there was a story that started spreading around the prison about, hey, did you hear about what dude did with the orange or the apple or whatever piece of fruit that it was? They said, yo, dude came out of the chow hall and took that orange or that apple like a baseball and fast pitched that money right into one of the seagulls. And he hit it and broke its wing. And at first, everybody laughed and joked about this. Oh, hey, there's that seagull right there that can't fly no more. And no bull, the seagull was left stuck with its wing cocked up in the air. And you know, for the longest time, I mean, this seagull probably lived on this prison for at least another year after this incident involving the piece of fruit being thrown at it happened. But for the longest time, you would catch this bird every so often trying to straighten that wing out, wanting so badly, so desperately to be able to fly. But fly again, it never would. Well, until the day that it died. Well, this joint's about to choke me up trying to share this story with y'all. I think now I want to start sharing with you guys the blog post that I wrote about this and do a little bit of reaction to that and also continue to share this story with you guys. But this was called the story of Lucky. And for whatever reason, Lucky became this bird's name. Broke wing or Lucky. One of two ways was how you referred to this bird. I've yet to ever understand why this bird was named Lucky. The prison I'm housed at is full of birds. In the summer, this place is flooded with ducks. In the winter, the ducks fly south, making room for their replacement, the seagulls. Joe King, like Steven, is what I was thinking I was. They take over this place when the weather turns colder. I got to this facility on April the 9th, 2012. That's interesting to note. If you'd have ever asked me prior to reading that right there, what day that I got to Indian Creek, I'd have never been able to tell you. Thank God that it's noted here. And during that time, the seagulls were here in full force. These birds are aggressive scavengers too. When people leave from the chow hall, they appear everywhere circling and dive bombing in search of food. People hate the seagulls so much they will do anything to keep them at bay. Well, one day I hear of a story of how this guy threw an apple and hit one of the seagulls, breaking its wing. I think to myself, how many prisoners laughed at that? Oh, look at that, damn, you hit that bird. Piece of shit in my book, whoever threw that fruit at that bird. This seagull could no longer fly and became trapped here. He was eventually given the name Lucky. Now, real quick, I want to throw this in here as well, mentioning that this bird became trapped here. This bird became a prisoner just like all of us. This bird was going to live the rest of its life in a prison. Summer came, and with that, the seagulls left, leaving Lucky behind. That was a hell of a thing to see right there. Lucky was then immersed in a whole new world, one where he was surrounded by ducks. Lucky became this outcast. He's a seagull in a world full of ducks. This bird became synonymous, boy, I've been using that word a lot, with every prisoner. I don't know if it was every prisoner, but I know for a fact, I had a connection with this bird, feeling like, yo, me and this bird was a lot alike. Feeling like you don't belong here. Feeling like you're a seagull in a world full of ducks. You can't relate to nobody in here. You feel so alone, an outcast. Unless you were ganged up, then I guess you probably didn't feel that. Ironically, people grew close to this broken-winged scavenger as he then took on a new meaning. The bird, one that had started out so hated, now became one of us. He represented us, the prisoners here, those who were trapped inside these fences, just as he was. I personally became close to this bird and had many conversations with him, and I know that sounds like I was losing my mind in prison. But there were many a days when I would be walking that boulevard by myself because I was a mural painter. I could come and go as I pleased. I didn't have to move with movement all the time when all of the other prisoners were out on the boulevard. And there were many times that I would see Broke Wing hobbling back and forth, to and fro, wherever he was coming and going from, trying to stretch out that wing that just wouldn't work right no more. People used to throw things at these seagulls. Well, now people were feeding Broke Wing, aka Lucky. There were a lot of prisoners who really rocked with Lucky. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to mention it in this blog post. I think that I do. But I want to say this real quick. One of the most powerful things that I ever saw in relation to this bird was one evening I was coming back from something. I can't remember where. It was almost dark out. The ducks, they sleep just right there in the grass, kind of huddled up. But this one particular night, I saw these damn ducks circled around Broke Wing. And Broke Wing was sleeping in the middle of this circle with these ducks surrounding him, almost like protecting him. And man, that shit messed me up. These are two different species, two different, totally different animals, birds. And, to see this type of, it was almost like they were protecting this bird, recognizing that he couldn't fly. That was a pretty crazy moment right there. I personally became so close to this bird and had many conversations with him relating to his pain and his struggle to adapt. This bird symbolized needed strength as he was forced to adapt to a world he knew nothing of. Life grounded. Man, that's crazy. I remember one summer night I was walking back to my housing unit around 8:30 p.m. I saw the strangest thing. The ducks were sleeping in a circle around Lucky, almost protecting him as he slept in the middle. That was so strange to me because as far as I could tell, the ducks had no relationship whatsoever with him. I had always assumed he was an outcast, a loner. But then I wasn't so sure. Lucky survived the summer just fine. Every day it was a normal routine to see Lucky scurrying over here or resting over there. Every so often you would catch him stretching his wings, trying desperately to right what would forever be broken. He would flop awkwardly in a meager attempt to fly. You might want to get the tissues out. Summer ended, the ducks left, and back came the seagulls. I even noticed there was a duck left behind. He too had a broken wing. I forgot about that. I don't know that he got hit with a piece of fruit or maybe, God, I'm trying to remember what happened to that damn duck. I can't remember though. Rumor had it, he has been here long before Lucky. Oh, well, then there's that. Things were going just fine. Lucky and the duck would be together in the midst of all of the seagull chaos, which is crazy to note because when the seagulls came back, there was no love for Lucky whatsoever. Hey, Lucky, what's going on? We missed you. Man, you should have been down there in Florida with us or wherever the hell they were at. And, you know, the seagulls, they're every bird for themselves, every man for themselves. They ain't going to look out. They're not going to look out for him. Lucky and the duck would be together in the midst of the seagull chaos. I could never imagine what was about to happen. I had always wondered how long Lucky would be able to survive. Would I be here to witness his death? How would he die? What would eventually be his undoing? These were questions I had asked myself from time to time. Well, last week, and again, mind you, I wrote this back, I think in 2014, the craziest damn thing happened. I was in the art room working on an important project when a guy came running in. Oh my God, you'll never believe what just happened, he said. What? I said. There was an eagle, he began. He was flying around and the next thing you know, he dropped down, grabbed Lucky and slammed him to the ground. He flew off and came back again and this time grabbed Lucky again, he continued. This time he carried him away with all these seagulls chasing after him. Maybe the seagulls did try to rescue Lucky. I knew then that Lucky was dead. Not only that, he was gone forever, never to be seen again. After art class was over and I had to return to my housing unit, that was when the reality set in. There was no Lucky. I felt closer to that seagull than I did most anyone here. And though I am saddened by the fact that he is gone, that's the natural cycle of things. Our greatest undoing could come from the most unlikely of sources. Boy, that was powerful right there. Our greatest undoing could come from the most unlikely of sources. Lucky was forced to watch out for all those others around him daily. People, seagulls, ducks. He could have never imagined it would be an eagle that basically appeared from nowhere that ultimately did him in. Yeah, eagles were a very rare thing to ever see at the prison. A bald eagle at that, which are kind of common in this area. The crazy part of this whole story is not only was it an eagle that killed Lucky, it was a bald eagle at that. This country's national bird. That's kind of ironic too. I don't know what I meant by that. What, that the nation killed him? Sort of like it's doing to all of the prisoners maybe? I don't know where I was going with that. Yo, when I found out that bird was killed, I mean, that messed me up. That was a super, super sad thing to deal with. I felt like me and that bird were doing time together. I felt like I mentioned in this blog post, like I felt more closer to that bird than most any of the prisoners there. We were outcast together, stuck, trapped, potentially could die there. One of us did. And I know that probably sounds kind of silly to some. Some are probably like hearing this like, oh, come on, Joe, that is so weak, soft, whatever. Imagine this, like, yo, prison will mess you up so bad. Just like Dennis had asked in his comment, you know, how does a prisoner adapt or process emotions? Well, in my particular case, I had cut off all emotion. But you don't know how that really will affect you and how a bird or a thing could just cause you to have some kind of feelings. That bird or that thing is going through whatever you're going through with you. That's kind of how I felt. I mean, that's exactly how I felt in this particular situation. So that was the end of the story right there. I want to share with you guys 2 cartoons that I drew in relation to Lucky, aka Brokewing. This first cartoon is one of the earliest cartoons that I did. It's the first cartoon that I ever did featuring Brokewing. There's that. And it showcases me and somebody else walking out of the chow hall. I don't know who that is. You can see Brokewing standing right there with his broken wing. You can see all of the other ducks. There's a guard standing over there by the mailboxes right there by the chow hall. And, you know, the caption on this cartoon says, "We're all just broken seagulls in a world full of ducks." Meaning, you know, prisoners, outcasts. Imagine going back out into society. You a broke-winged seagull. You are handicapped and frowned upon and, you know, look like you ain't going to be able to accomplish or contribute shit to life. Yeah, I definitely felt like I had a lot in common with that bird. And in this final cartoon, it's kind of interesting that even though I didn't see, you know, the death of Brokewing, hearing about it and knowing how an eagle will attack its prey, you know, I had a pretty good idea of how this thing went down. It was probably pretty gruesome. But I drew this cartoon right here where you can clearly see this eagle carrying off Brokewing, and the caption on this says, "Sometimes we're forced to adjust in life. Take the broke-winged seagull, for example. He can't even fly, and look how good he's doing." Huh. Well, he wasn't doing too good in the end. Now, was he? Pretty crazy. To Dennis and Carl, I dedicate this to both of y'all. Thank you guys for the inspiration for this video. And I hope that this was a video you guys enjoyed. You wanted to hear about some sad shit? Well, that's about as philosophical and as sad as I can get for you in terms of what I personally went through. Now, don't get me wrong, I could definitely do the top 10, and that would probably have a lot more skits in it. Maybe we'll have that coming soon. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like and a comment on this, letting me know exactly what you thought about this. As always, until next time, enjoy life, the free world. Never take a moment for granted, and make the most of every day. Peace!